The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty stretch of road as Owen Carter made his way slowly down the sidewalk, the soles of his worn boots pressing into the earth with each step. His gait was steady, but the day had been long, an exhausting slog of tending crops, mending fences, and hauling equipment across acres of farmland that had been in his family for 3 generations. His clothes, faded denim and a dark shirt clinging to his sun-soaked skin, were marked with the stains of honest labor. The heat didn't bother him. It was as much a part of his life as the soil under his fingernails. Owen didn't expect that today would be any different from the others, until he stepped through the glass doors of the Clayton and Nash tractor dealership. The moment he entered, the chill of air conditioning wrapped around him like an abrupt slap of unfamiliarity. The contrast was jarring. Inside, the floors gleamed like mirrors, the countertops were spotless slabs of polished marble, and every corner of the showroom shimmered with affluence. Tractors stood proudly under glowing spotlights, sleek, powerful, futuristic machines that looked more like luxury vehicles than tools meant for soil and toil. It was another world entirely, and Owen could feel the divide the moment he crossed the threshold. He wasn't here by accident. His son, Elliot Carter, the founder and CEO of Carter Tech, one of the largest agricultural machinery companies in the country, had personally asked him to drop by a few of the dealerships. Not to inspect machines, not to sign off on new designs, but to see firsthand how customers were being treated. Elliot believed that no matter how advanced the product, the core of their success came down to how people were respected. But he had insisted the staff not be told. "I want you to go just as you are, Dad. See how they treat someone who looks like they walked straight off the field." So that's exactly what Owen did. He moved slowly through the gleaming showroom, his rough hands brushing lightly against the polished metal of the tractors. They were magnificent, far more advanced than the aging machine back on his farm, but he appreciated them not as trophies, but as tools. He admired their engineering, their functionality. He thought about how much more efficient life could be for farmers like him if they had access to something like this. But he also began to feel the shift in the room. The salespeople behind the counters had noticed him. Their suits were immaculate, their hair perfectly styled, their watches glinting beneath the lights. And none of them wore expressions of welcome. Their glances lingered too long. Their whispered words, though hushed, carried the unmistakable sting of mockery. Owen heard enough of them to know what was happening. One of them, a tall young man named Bryce with slicked back hair and the smug air of someone who'd never had dirt under his nails, approached with a practiced smile. "Can I help you with something?" Bryce asked, his tone syrupy with condescension, like he was speaking to a lost child rather than a man twice his age. Owen looked him in the eye. Calm, polite, just looking. Bryce nodded, but the judgment in his eyes didn't fade. He turned with a dismissive shake of his head and strutted away. Owen kept moving. Row after row of tractors, each more advanced than the last, stretched before him. But he no longer walked with the ease of admiration. There was a heaviness now, each step weighed down not by exhaustion, but by the air of disdain swirling around him. He could feel the other employees watching him, silently concluding he didn't belong there. One of them actually laughed as he passed. Another exchanged a knowing smirk with Bryce, who had returned to his pedestal behind the counter. Owen ignored them. He wasn't here for them. He was here for the truth. Then Bryce reappeared, standing beside a top-tier model with an exaggerated flourish. "I see you've taken a liking to our elite line," he said, voice still heavy with sarcasm. "But let me show you something a bit more appropriate. We've got a couple used models in the back. Much more practical for someone like yourself." Owen gave a half-smile. "I'm still looking," he said gently. Bryce's grin faded slightly, but he said nothing more. He turned again and walked off, clearly annoyed at Owen's unwillingness to play along with the stereotype. The experience grew more uncomfortable with every minute. Owen wasn't just being ignored. He was being humiliated, quietly, subtly, and systemically. They judged his clothes. They judged his silence. They judged the dirt on his boots as if it were a stain on his character rather than a badge of honest work. But Owen didn't raise his voice. He didn't scold. He didn't demand recognition. That wasn't his way. Instead, he took his time. He studied each tractor as if it were the only one in the world. And all the while, he observed the employees, how they treated others, how they moved, how they whispered behind the backs of people who didn't look like wealth. When he reached the far end of the showroom, Bryce cornered him again. "This model?" he said, pointing to the flagship tractor. "This one's worth more than a year of your salary. You sure you're in the right place?" Owen didn't answer immediately. He ran his hand along the side of the machine, taking in the smooth chill of the metal. Then he looked Bryce dead in the eye. "I know exactly where I am," he said calmly. Before Bryce could fire back, another voice rang out across the room. It was deeper, older, and carried the weight of authority. "Bryce." It was Harold, the dealership's senior manager, and a man who had spent the last few minutes watching everything unfold from his office's glass window. His expression was tight, his stride purposeful. "Do you have any idea who this man is?" Harold asked, voice sharp. Bryce frowned. "I was just helping him." "No, you were patronizing him," Harold cut in. "And not just him. You and half the staff here have made a mockery of what this company stands for." Bryce's smirk vanished. Harold turned to Owen and gave a respectful nod. "This man is Owen Carter. He's the father of Elliot Carter, the founder and owner of the very company whose machines you're paid to sell. And he's the reason you even have a job." The silence that fell over the showroom was instant and suffocating. Owen said nothing. He didn't need to. Bryce's face drained of color. His lips moved as if to form an apology, but no words came out. Around them, the other employees froze in place, the weight of their arrogance crashing down like a hammer. A few minutes later, Elliot walked in through the back entrance. He had been waiting in the car, watching the security footage remotely as his father walked through the dealership. He saw every look, heard every word. And now, standing in front of his staff, his disappointment was unmistakable. "I built this company on the belief that every customer, no matter how they look, no matter where they come from, deserves respect," Elliot said. "And today, you forgot that. You failed." No one dared speak. Elliot turned to his father. "Thanks, Dad." Owen gave a small nod. He didn't need retribution. He didn't need apologies. The point had been made. As he walked out of the dealership, he did so as quietly as he had entered. But the weight of his steps had changed. This time, they echoed with dignity. The lesson hadn't been for him. It had been for them. And it would cost them far more than they'd ever expected.